I read every single one of you guys' comments. No joke. No comment is left unseen. So you, yes you, I've read your comment. And I take what y'all say seriously and value your opinions. With that being said, someone said I should make a video about PBS Kids. So here's that. According to my Cubo video, I'm sure most of you watching this have heard of this channel called PBS Kids, but for those of you who don't know, PBS Kids is an American public broadcasting service, literally what PBS stands for, founded July 11th, 1994, and I quote, committed to making a positive impact on the lives of children through curriculum-based entertainment with positive role models and content designed to nurture a child's total well-being. Well, let me just say, they definitely nailed the entertainment part of it. I loved watching PBS Kids right after school. I would come home from school, turn on the TV, and they would usually be playing Martha Speaks if I remember correctly, and I would start on my homework. Those were the golden days, when all I had to worry about was completing my homework and trying to stay up for Cubo's Night Owl segment. The question is though, is PBS Kids still good? And by good, I mean, are they still broadcasting top tier shows? The last time I checked up on PBS Kids channel, I remember seeing a few new shows that I definitely did not grow up with. So today, because I have made it my job, I'm going to be ranking PBS Kids shows that I grew up with versus the new shows that I didn't grow up with, and determine if PBS Kids is still what it used to be because my opinion matters. Alright, let's start off with
Martha Speaks. I don't know, it was good. It was one of the ones I was kind of excited to see.
I think the concept of the show was a great idea. It was about a dog named Martha who gained speaking abilities through alphabet soup. I think the theme song does a great job of explaining her story. And the lyrics go, Martha was an average dog. She went woof and grrr. And when she ate some alphabet soup, then what happened was bizarre. On the way to Martha's stomach, the letters lost their way. They traveled to her brain, and now she's got a lot to say. Now she speaks. How now, brown cow? Martha speaks and speaks and speaks and speaks and speaks. Thank you. No need for a standing ovation.
Definitely don't think it's S tier, but I feel like A tier might be too high. C tier is definitely too low. I'm gonna give Martha Speaks B tier.
Next up is
Cyber Chase. Ooh, Cyber Chase was pretty good, but was it better than Martha Speaks?
Based on my own memory, Cyber Chase was a group of 3 kids and a bird named Digit, my favorite character, who would try to fight viruses and protect the motherboard in cyberspace.
Cyber Chase was pretty good. I think A tier is just too high. I'm gonna give Cyber Chase B tier as well. Fetch with Rough Man.
This was a game show series that brought in different sets of kids each season to compete in groups and win prizes at the end of the show. The host being Rough Man, a dog, with a cat assistant.
I'm not gonna lie, now that I'm a lot more grown, Fetch has become a lot more interesting. But as a kid, it wasn't my favorite show just because like I was more into cartoons and sometimes I would just lose interest. So for Fetch, like, don't get me wrong, it was a good concept of a show and I won't lie, it was well made, but I'm doing it as perspective as a kid, and I'm gonna give Fetch a C. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Sesame Street.
So like Sesame Street, based on my own memory, was just like a bunch of puppets interacting with each other on this street, I guess, and there was like humans too. I don't really know because I didn't watch it much.
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one. Sesame Street, even as a kid, just wasn't really a show I liked. I never got into Sesame Street, but I can't straight up lie to y'all and say that it wasn't like well made or anything, but I just remember the only part of Sesame Street I liked was literally Elmo. I literally only liked Elmo, and it wasn't even that much. Like, if the only show was Elmo, I'd still probably give it like a B at most. So I'm gonna give Sesame Street a D. I'm so sorry. WordGirl, okay.
Wait a minute, let me search up her name because now I really want to know. What was her name? Becky, right? Y'all, WordGirl's lore and origin story is just like so deep for a children's show. Like, I'm just like looking into it and researching it, and wow, it's They put some serious thought into this. Okay, so WordGirl is about a girl with superpowers whose secret identity is Becky Botsford, so I was right. And she was born on the fictional planet Lexicon, which apparently is actually a real word, which I'm just now finding out today. And as a kid would have never known. It just sounded like a name of a weird alien planet. But anyway, she has to hide her secret identity from literally everybody, including her mom and dad and brother and her best friend. And like, I think it was just amazing how they put the show together.
I know my older sister didn't really like WordGirl, but I don't know why I was so invested in all the characters. Like, even up until now. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the episode where everyone finds out who WordGirl really is, or like Dr. Two Brain's origin story. Oh my gosh. And not to mention, WordGirl was also pretty funny. Like, it was one of the shows that used like sarcasm and dry wit humor, and I appreciate that.
Is this string cheese?
Yeah.
You know, I like how you stick to this whole cheese theme.
Oh, thank you for noticing. It's not always easy, believe you me. Hey, no more small talk! Back to my lair!
It's so hard seeing me put WordGirl above Cyberchase because I thought as a kid I liked Cyberchase more. But I remember as a kid, some of the episodes would just get kind of repetitive, and when I realized that they're really just getting chased from the same person, while WordGirl had like an actual good plot. Because of that, I'm gonna put WordGirl A tier. Oh my gosh, I never expected that. We got our first S tier. I don't even have to say anything. Arthur is the best show. The best show on PBS Kids. That's it. That's it. S tier no matter what.
This show demonstrates to kids how to deal with such childhood traumas and challenges as homework, teachers, and bullies. Arthur also has to contend with his sisters but loves playing with his friends. Tomboy Francine, foodie and best pal Buster, super smart Brain, rich girl Muffy, and geography expert Sue Ellen.
I loved everything about Arthur. The plot, the characters, the humor. There was sometimes humor. Like, sometimes it was more just so a deep plot. But I loved every episode of Arthur. Like, even as an adult, I'm still watching Arthur. Arthur was a well-made show, and I think even for like teenagers and preteens, like, they could sit down and actually enjoy the show. I feel like adults could enjoy the show, and I'm proof of that. Super Y. Super Y, I don't know.
The point of the show was really just to teach young kids how to read and spell, and I was really good at that as a kid, so it got kind of repetitive and boring for me because they would, you know, ask the audience simple questions like spell cat, and I'd be like, well, duh, C-A-T, and I'd be like, can we move on with the plot? However, Super Y has like one of the best theme songs on PBS Kids.
Super Y and the Super Readers, yeah.
As a kid, it was just kind of repetitive, you know, and I'm not gonna say I hated the show because like I would watch through the whole show, but I'm gonna give Super Y C tier. It just wasn't my favorite show or anything. Kind of mid. Dinosaur Train. Okay. I got to appreciate Dinosaur Train a little bit more. But as a kid watching it growing up, Dinosaur Train was kind of like the I guess it's on, I'll just watch it kind of show. Because of that, I'm going to give it a C tier. Why was the theme song more interesting than the actual show? I wanted to know like the actual origin stories of the little dinosaur that got adopted by pterodactyls, and maybe there was an episode about that, but I just never got to see it. But yeah.
However, the theme song does do a great job at explaining the show and I guess kind of the origin. So this is where I sing the song for you, and as y'all know, I'm not much of a singer, but copyright, so I'll try my best. Once upon a time, there was a mom. Her name was Mrs. Pteranodon. Sitting on her nest, she heard a scratching and said,
"Oh boy, my eggs are hatching!"
One by one, her kids pop free. Babies, Pteranodons, 1, 2, 3. I'll name you Tiny, Shiny, and Don. But Tiny said,
"Wait, there's one more, Mom."
The last little baby was a different size, with teeth, a tail, and big green eyes. He didn't look anything like the rest.
What am I doing in a Pteranodon nest?
But dear old Mrs. Pteranodon said, "This is your family and I'm your mom. We may be different, but we're all creatures All dinosaurs have different features. Come on, buddy, we'll take a vacation. I'll get us a ticket at Pteranodon Station. We'll travel the world in sunshine and rain and meet all the species on the dinosaur train. Dinosaur train. Wow, the things I do for YouTube, because that was embarrassing. But anyways, you see what I mean? Where did he come from, and how come Miss Pteranodon never noticed a weird egg in her nest? And why did she so easily adopt him? Like, I love that, but like, will we ever find Buddy's real mom? This is the stuff I want to know. Moving on, Clifford the Big Red Dog. Ain't gonna lie to you, I liked that show for no reason. Like, it wasn't even that good. So practically, Clifford is about this really big dog. I searched it up, and apparently he's supposed to be 20 feet tall. Okay, that's huge. He loves stories. He loves his owner, Emily Elizabeth, and they enjoy new adventures as they explore their island home. I think it was called Coney Island, right? Or maybe I just made... No. Newberry, something like that. I forgot. Let me search it up. So the island is called Birdwell, and I definitely knew that. Because I liked it so much, I'm gonna give it a B. I appreciated the characters, the lessons that I learned, the animation. I liked Clifford. What can I say? Cat in the Hat knows a lot about that. This was one of the like the newer shows for me. Like, I was like, oh, that's a new show that they just added. So I thought I was gonna like it a lot, but really wasn't that great. It wasn't as entertaining as it was educational. When I can see through the entertainment and just see education, it wasn't a well-made show. Like, you have to trick me.
Bees are tricked into entering the flower in search of nectar with the lady slipper by climbing out the hole in the top. Doing so, the bee helps pollinate the flower.
So for that, I'm gonna give Cat in the Hat a D. I'm sorry, it wasn't that good. Pocoyo! Pocoyo was one of those shows I had to stay up all night to watch or wake up really early. I personally never woke up early except for school, but we never got to watch TV during school mornings because that was illegal. But I remember we did end up staying up all night up until like 6 a.m. I think is when it started playing, and we were able to watch Pocoyo, and then eventually we started watching it in the morning before school. Even so, still never really liked it because they didn't speak. I was never into shows that were just silent. I guess it was for like little baby toddlers who don't speak yet. I'm not too sure, or just to make the show more universal. I think Pocoyo is going to be my first E. Curious George. Can we talk about a legend? Curious George is by far one of my favorite shows. Like, if you ask me which one do I like better, Arthur or Curious George, couldn't tell ya. Curious George was literally my best friend. I loved Curious George. Curious George is what made me think monkeys were my favorite animal, because I loved Curious George so much. According to IMDb, Curious George is a sweet African monkey. Aw, just like me. Well, the African part, not the monkey. Anyways, he can't help but run into trouble. George's friend, the man in the yellow hat, tries very hard to take care of George and is always saving the day. The show's themes are about learning, forgiveness, and playful curiosity. I'm gonna give Curious George an S tier, no matter what. I had the best memories watching Curious George. It was just so interesting, all the mishaps he would get into. I loved Curious George in the city, Curious George in the country. I watched every single Curious George movie. I've recently just watched the Curious George movies like a few years back. Next we have Barney. I'm so sorry, but Barney, never liked it. Barney was just all about friendship and being nice. That's not the kind of kid I would have described myself as a younger person. Not to say I was mean or anything, I really wasn't. Just, I was more so not what Barney wanted. And because of that, didn't really like Barney. He just reminded me of my teachers. I just never really felt comfortable around teachers is what I'm just gonna say. The I Love You song was cringy. Every song was cringy.
Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, boppity bop. I like it the way that you boppity bop.
He was cringy. Even as a kid, before I even knew what the word cringy meant, I just knew this show sucks. And because of that, Barney's getting an E. Sid the Science Kid. I won't lie, Sid the Science Kid had some of the best music.
I like checking out charts. The charts rule. You get the picture, so do I.
However, and unfortunately, I never liked the show. It just wasn't good. Watching the show actually always inspired me to play
school as a child. As much as I hated the show, I kind of wanted to be in the Sid the Science Kid class. And I loved the teacher because, like I said, not really comfortable around teachers, but that teacher was pretty nice. And like I said, the music was good. So I'm gonna give Sid the Science Kid C tier just because it was very mid and subpar, but it wasn't bad enough for a D, but it's not good enough for a B either. Caillou is definitely gonna have to be okay. I know everyone hates Caillou, and I agree now.
He wants to put the cow in it. But Farmer George had the truck. No, Rosie. I'm Caillou the Great. It's too hot, Mommy. It's too cold, Mommy. Clean's no fun. Mommy, Daddy, you're all wet.
You could play with Rosie.
I don't want to play with Rosie.
No, it's today. I got all dressed. It's today. No, I don't want to. Silly old car. Silly.
Like, Caillou was a spoiled brat. He was annoying, pissed me off. But as a kid, I liked Caillou. I liked watching it. I liked the animation, and I liked seeing him, you know? I'm sorry. Even though he was a bald kid, Caillou made me happy, and I liked the song too. But it didn't make me that happy. Don't get me twisted. I'm definitely gonna give it a B though. I'm so sorry, y'all. Mr. Rogers. Okay, I didn't watch it that much just because literally it was so boring. I didn't care for it. But I did remember sitting through one episode and I was like, yeah, I didn't miss out on much.
They're suitcases. I'm using them to carry things. You want to guess what might be inside the big one? This big one down here? Want to guess what might be in there? You want to guess what might be inside this little one? This little suitcase has little hats in it. Look at those little hats. Now the big suitcase has big hats.
I do respect his legacy. He did a lot for children's entertainment. I respect him a lot. I loved what he did. I'm still gonna give him an E. It just wasn't a show that I was drawn to as a kid, but obviously I respect what he did. I'm sorry. Peep and the Big Wide World. That show was pretty good, and it was one of those shows I had to wake up really early for too, or stay up late at night. Because of that, it just made it a lot better because it was like a show that I didn't get much of, and I really enjoyed the animation, the humor. It was pretty good, so I'm gonna give it a B. Word World was okay. It was fun, but I was really good at spelling. I was really good at vocabulary, grammar. So like the educational side of it was kind of boring. So it really just heavily depended on the plot for me. And the plot wasn't all that, but it wasn't bad either. And because of that, I'm going to give it a C. Wildcrats was one of the newer shows that also came out back when I was a kid. I was like, oh my gosh, a new show. And I actually really loved it. It was actually really interesting. And each time I was like, wow, are they going to die? Obviously they never do. But because of that, I'm going to give it a B. There's a lot of Bs. Electric Company. I know I said I hated real life shows, as I've mentioned in Fetch and Mr. Rogers, but Electric Company was one of those shows that I genuinely enjoyed as a real life show. And based on my memory alone, it was about a group of kids who used specific powers they had that related to like spelling and vocabulary, I think, to like defeat the bad guys of their world.
Whatever you say, I can easily recall every word that was said. I throw it up on the wall.
My eyes take pictures of everything I see. I can lay out for you whatever I've seen, like flipping through the pages of a magazine.
I rearrange letters. I'm showing you how to make Keith Watson take this now.
I loved the music. I loved the rap. I loved everything about it. So because of that, Electric Company is gonna be an A. Maya and Miguel. Maya and Miguel was also really iconic for us because I think it only came out at 7 a.m. or like 7:30 or something. So it was really hard for us to watch it because we'd either be getting ready for school, at school, or sleeping. It definitely met our expectations and it was really good, and because of that, Maya Miguel is gonna get A. Watching it back now, it wasn't all that, because the plot was just a cycle of Maya getting into trouble and having to apologize to her friends at the end, which at the time as a kid, loved it, but now I'm seeing it wasn't that much better than any other show on PBS Kids. But I still definitely loved it as a kid. Next is Thomas and Friends. I'm sorry, y'all. Thomas and Friends gave me nightmares. I don't know about you guys, but it terrified me. I just don't watch Thomas and Friends because it scares me. It still does. It still scares me. I'm sorry. And because it was so scary, trust me when I say I didn't watch the show. And when I did watch the show, it was so boring. There were so many people on my Cubo video in the comment section who actually mentioned Thomas and Friends and how they loved it. I just could not relate. I hated Thomas and Friends even when I sat through it and watched it. And I know there's an animated version, and I'm sure that the animated version is going to be a lot easier for me to get into, just because I don't know what it was. Thomas and Friends scared me. I'm sorry. And because of that, Thomas and Friends is going to have an E. Between the Lions. Ooh, Between the Lions was definitely one of those more boring shows, but like I was able to sit through it and kind of get into it. Not gonna lie, it wasn't the best show, but I'm looking back at it as an adult, it was pretty good, but I'm doing it based on my younger self, so therefore I'm gonna do Between the Lions as a D, and not because it deserves to be there. I think now I'd put it as a B, but just because back in the day it wasn't one of my favorite shows. It just didn't capture my attention as much, mainly because I had an inflated ego and thought I could read and write perfectly, but I guess that was just a personal problem. And I wasn't really a big fan on puppets. Oop, as you can see for Sesame Street, just wasn't a heavy fan on puppets. And yeah, now that I've ranked all the PBS Kids shows that I remember, I'm going to take a look at some of the newer shows and see how they hold up against our childhood favorites on PBS Kids. Starting off strong, we have Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. I personally believe this is a great way to continue Mr. Rogers' legacy onto the newer generation. Honestly, I've watched the show and think it's pretty great. Kind of interesting too, as I saw young creatures learn how to deal with their emotions and social skills, and I genuinely walked away having learned something. For example, the episode where Daniel learned to control his anger by breathing and counting.
When you feel so mad that you wanna roar, take a deep breath and count to 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And instead of moping around about the problem, something I definitely do by the way, he solved the problem and changed the plan. And each episode of Daniel Tiger teaches a valuable life lesson like this, making this hold up to our childhood classic of Mr. Rogers. 10 out of 10. Next up, Odd Squad. In Odd Squad, they have to solve some very odd cases. For example, missing zeros, time travel, and runaway dinosaurs. All of the agents' names start with the letter O, which is my favorite letter, so I may be biased here, and use humor and wit to teach problem-solving teamwork and math, which is my worst subject, so let's just say I definitely paid extra attention to this one.
My name is Agent Olive. This is my partner, Agent Otto. This is a bird I saw. But back to Otto and me. We work for an organization run by kids that investigates anything strange, weird, and especially odd.
That being said, I'm obsessed with this show. It's actually really funny, and the plots are very captivating. I've actually gone out of my way to watch the movie, obviously called Odd Squad, the movie, but it was a great movie at that. I would say this show would definitely hold its own to Cyber Chase, which I believe are very similar, giving Odd Squad a 10 out of 10. For our last show, I found Let's Go Luna, a show about a moon and her 3 friends following their parents around the world, learning about new cultures and traditions. About time they made a show like this. I've watched it and they do a great job explaining and experiencing different cultures without being accidentally offensive. And I know other shows have done this too, like in Caillou, where he learned about Chinese traditions.
You can use your fingers. The dragon's coming! Happy New Year! Xing Yan Hao!
And Maya Miguel as well.
Got an A on my math test and the principal wants to put my artwork up in the house. It's all because of feng shui.
Well, feng shui is an ancient Chinese way of inviting qi, or good energy, into your house and getting rid of sha, or bad energy.
But it was more so just 1 or 2 episodes, while this is a whole series about the matter. This is a great way for kids to learn about the world and people around them, and I would say holds up to Dinosaur Train, which did the same thing but learned about different dinosaurs and how they lived instead. Another 10 out of 10. Dang, I'm actually surprised to find that a lot of these newer PBS Kids shows are actually very respectable and not low quality at all. No, like even their theme songs are good. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood? Now that's a bop I'm jamming to all day.
It's Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, a land of make-believe. I've got lots of friends for you to meet in this land of make-believe. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
Peg plus Cat, their theme song consists of 3 words, and all 3 words are in the title of the show. Yes, the lyrics are just Peg plus Cat, and yes, it's stuck in my head now. In conclusion, PBS Kids had some great shows and are still producing bangers to this day. However, it may just be because they're meant to be educational, so they can't risk being really stupid or annoying like Uncle Grandpa, or whatever this is supposed to be. This was a longer video, so if you made it to the end, thanks for getting here. I really appreciate it, and feel free to subscribe if you're feeling down. Leave a comment on a show I missed, or your own opinions. I read everything. Not an exaggeration, by the way.
Ghosts!